You are being asked to create 5 PLOs, each of which will align with a specific ILC here at Southwestern Michigan College. Items that you may want to have handy in the process of creating them are a copy of the ILCs. This has been provided on this Moodle page for you in the resource section. It lists the ILCs with definitions and descriptions under them. You will also want a copy of Bloom's taxonomy, and you have been provided with a copy of the upper 3 levels, analyzing, evaluating, and creating in Bloom's taxonomy on the resource section for this Moodle page. The rule is that program level outcomes must be at either higher or the same level as your course level outcomes. So it is highly recommended that you utilize measurable verbs from the upper 3 levels in Bloom's taxonomy when you are creating your program learning outcomes. Additionally, something you may want to think about is maybe limiting even to the upper 2 levels, because as you go down to your course levels and then even into the module levels for the outcomes, you will want, this will just make the process easier for you, that you'll be able to fit them easier if the higher you choose within your PLO, the easier it is to, or the more options you will have from Bloom's taxonomy to align in the lower levels, such as a course level or a module level. Another item you may want to have handy is the overview description from the course catalog. You may also want to pull up and have handy any program learning outcomes that you have created in prior years. These are helpful if you've created them already in the past. Quite often you can pull and modify or adjust or revise them to be able to meet the criteria needed for this round of reporting to the HLC. If your program is new and you are going to be writing your PLOs for this program for the very first time, you may want to ask yourself, what are the 5 main goals or aims that I would like my students to achieve in this program? This will give you a good base in which to start building your PLOs. Remember, the goal is 5 PLOs, each of which directly aligning under a specific ILC. We are going to use a sample from the School of Business to kind of do a dry walkthrough here of some possible program learning outcomes. Just a disclaimer, this is not my area of expertise. I do not work in the School of Business. However, for the purposes of this demonstration, we chose to pull from this area. So as you can see, the course catalog, the program overview description in the course catalog contains general wording, and quite often you can pull from there and integrate into your PLO. We also pulled their program outcomes that they had created in prior years, and it is from 2016, and we may be able to modify or revise some of them. So a couple of things to remember when you are creating your PLOs. Be sure that the PLO is broadly worded, which means general concepts and overarching ideas. Make sure your PLO contains reference to content in your specific program, and your PLO should be a declarative statement, a single sentence. You also want to make sure you integrate a single measurable verb from one of the upper levels of Bloom's taxonomy. And then we also want you to remind you that you are allowed to use implied wording. You do not have to use the exact wording from the ILC, but if you do use implied wording, be sure that it conveys the message and it's very clear in which ILC it will align with. Each of your PLOs it's recommended that you start with the wording, the graduating student. The reason being, these are outcomes for the end of the program. In other words, they will have successful completion of the program. So we're going to start ours with the graduating student will be able to. And then we are going to work one by one with the ILCs to see if we can reword maybe what we have here, something from there, making it either more general, broadly worded, and linking to one of our ILCs. So let's start with communication. In this particular one, we actually utilized this, a version of this, and we broadened the wording, and we also included a measurable verb. And then it was very clear by the use of the exact word which ILC it's going to be linking to. So in this ILC is communication, and that's what this particular PLO is going to be linked to. So do know the statement is not overly long. It is a declarative statement. It is broadly worded, so it's overarching idea or concept. It does contain reference to specific program area, which is business. It is a declarative sentence, declarative statement. The measurable verb we have chosen is verify. That was the appropriate one. And of course, verify is contained in one of the upper levels of Bloom's taxonomy. In this case, it's located in the evaluating level. So it is in the one of the upper ones. And then it does use exact wording, communication, communication, so that it's very clear which ILC it's going to align with. So let's try another one. And in this one, we are not going to use exact wording, but instead it will be implied. In this one, we're going to analyze, and again, we are using wording from our overview that we're going to include, and it is general, and it does contain reference to the content area. It is a declarative statement, and the measurable verb we have chosen to use is analyze from the analyzing level. The next one we're going to work on is distinguish. We're going to work on ethical behavior. I apologize. We're going to use the measurable verb distinguish. And again, we are using exact wording, so the link is clear with which ILC we are working on. So I'm going to do the next two just because I don't want to bore you. We're going to pop those in really quickly. And there's value and evaluate. Those are measurable verbs. We linked with engagement. So again, we did implied wording on this one. And evaluate global business implications. Now this one, the wording is a little more direct, but it's not exact. So again, it's implied. However, it links nicely or aligns nicely with global awareness and appreciation. And again, these items are taken from either this section or the overview. And you can tell we simply modified and revised some items that we already had in place to make them meet the criteria of what is going to be needed in this round of HLC reporting. So just a quick recap, roundup. You want your PLO to be broadly worded, general concepts and ideas, overarching ideas. It needs to contain reference to content areas specific to your program. It needs to be a declarative statement, a single sentence, and it needs to contain a measurable verb from one of the three upper levels of Bloom's taxonomy. And it's recommended you really shoot for the upper two levels to make life easier for you in aligning with course learning outcomes and module learning outcomes as it goes down the system or the mapping. And then, of course, you are allowed to use implied wording or direct wording from the ILC. Implied wording, you just want to make sure that it easily conveys the meaning of the alignment of the ILC from the PLO to the ILC. I hope you found this video helpful.